Have you ever wondered if the ancient gods truly left us a hidden map to unlock the divine within ourselves? Long before modern science even began to grasp the mysteries of human energy, one figure already knew the greatest secret of all: Thoth, the Atlantean master. In the forbidden wisdom of the Emerald Tablets, he spoke of a sacred fire sleeping within mankind, a serpent of pure power waiting to awaken. Today, we know this force as Kundalini, and when it rises, it does more than transform the body. It opens gateways to higher dimensions of consciousness, bridging the human with the eternal. What if Thoth's words weren't just ancient myth, but a coded guide meant for those ready to awaken? Stay with me, because in this video, we're going to uncover how Thoth revealed the hidden truth of Kundalini, and why this knowledge has been kept from humanity for millennia. Before we begin, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Here we uncover hidden, forbidden, and forgotten knowledge of the universe and humanity. Secrets you won't find anywhere else. Subscribe now and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming. Go ahead and write your opinion about Kundalini in the comments. Your voice is very important here. Since the dawn of human existence, whispers of a hidden power have echoed through every culture, every sacred text, and every esoteric school. This power is said to rest quietly within us all, like a sleeping dragon, waiting for the moment when we dare to awaken it. The ancient Egyptians spoke of a subtle fire, a current of divine force flowing through the body. The Hindus, through the science of yoga, described it as a serpent coiled 3.5 times at the base of the spine, resting within the root chakra. The Hermetic philosophers, heirs of wisdom traced back to Atlantis, hinted at a radiant energy capable of lifting man beyond the limitations of flesh and into the higher dimensions of spirit. Today, we know this force by a name that carries mystery and reverence: Kundalini. But what many spiritual traditions only veil in symbols, Thoth, the great Atlantean master, the immortal teacher who became a god among men, revealed openly for those with eyes to see. In the Emerald Tablets, he wrote of the fire that rises within man, a secret flame capable of bridging heaven and earth, mortality and divinity. This fire, spoken of by Thoth himself, is none other than the awakening of Kundalini. Imagine, at the very root of your being, beneath layers of thought, emotion, and physical awareness, there lies a reservoir of untapped potential. It is not just energy, it is consciousness itself, compressed and dormant. The ancients depicted it as a serpent because of its coiled nature, tightly wound at the base of the spine. But this serpent is not of flesh. It is a living current of life force, the primal essence of creation itself. When dormant, Kundalini is silent. A person may live their entire life without ever knowing that such a power exists within them. They work, they eat, they sleep, they dream, unaware that they carry the very spark of the gods hidden in the depths of their own body. But when awakened, whether through discipline, devotion, or sometimes through divine grace, this serpent stirs. It begins to uncoil, and as it rises, it transforms the individual completely. Why did Thoth, among all the masters, emphasize this inner fire? Because he understood that mankind's greatest prison is ignorance of its own divinity. We look outward for salvation, for power, for wisdom, when all along the keys to immortality burn quietly within. In the Emerald Tablets, Thoth speaks of a fire that moves through the body, enlightening the mind and purifying the soul. He warns that only those who are pure of heart and steady of will can safely guide this fire upward, for if awakened prematurely or misused, it can consume rather than transform. This fire is Kundalini. It is the bridge between the mortal and the eternal. It is the path by which the soul ascends through the planes, unlocking the higher centers of perception, awakening clairvoyance, wisdom, and ultimately union with the divine. The Hindus describe this process through the chakras, the 7 energy centers aligned along the spine. The Egyptians carved it into their temple walls, showing serpents rising beside the pharaoh's spine, symbolizing illumination. And in Hermetic philosophy, it was the flame of transformation, the inner alchemy that turns lead into gold, not in the laboratories of men, but in the soul of the initiate. Why a serpent? Why a fire? Because these are the closest symbols to describe the movement of consciousness through matter. The serpent coils and uncoils, much like energy spirals upward in a helix. Fire consumes the old and gives birth to light, just as Kundalini burns away illusions and awakens higher awareness. Every culture encoded this truth in its own symbols. In Egypt, the uraeus serpent rising from the brow of the pharaoh was not just a crown. It was a sign that his Kundalini had risen to the pineal gland, awakening divine sight. In Hinduism, the goddess Shakti herself was Kundalini, the sacred feminine power longing to unite with Shiva at the crown of the head. In the Hermetic teachings, the serpent power was the current of life that could be directed by the will of the adept to transcend the cycles of birth and death. What Thoth reveals is not just knowledge, it is an invitation. The awakening of Kundalini is not a reserve for priests, yogis, or initiates in hidden temples. It is a birthright of every human soul. Each of us carries within the seed of divinity, the latent spark of enlightenment, waiting for the call of awakening. But Thoth also warns, this path is not to be taken lightly. To awaken Kundalini is to set fire to one's entire being. All that is false will be burned away. All that is impure will be brought to the surface. It is a path of purification, of transformation, of death and rebirth. And yet, it is also the path of liberation, the way back to the stars, the way back to the eternal light from which we came. So when you hear the word Kundalini, do not think of it as a distant or exotic concept. Think of it as the very core of who you are, the hidden fire that has always been within you. Thoth, in his timeless wisdom, left us the keys to unlock this mystery. He knew that one day humanity would rise again, seeking the truth of its own nature. And in that moment, the teachings of Kundalini, the fire of the soul, would no longer be hidden, but revealed as the greatest treasure within. This is the hidden power within, the fire that makes us more than mortal, the serpent that awakens the divine. Thoth, like many ancient sages, rarely delivered wisdom in plain and direct words. Instead, he clothed truth in symbols, myths, and allegories. Among the most enigmatic of these symbols is the image of the serpent winding its way up the staff, an image that has echoed through countless cultures, from the temples of ancient Egypt to the mysteries of Greece, and later into the iconography of healing and medicine in the Caduceus. At first glance, it may seem like a simple emblem, but in reality, it contains the blueprint of human transformation. The serpent has always carried a dual meaning across civilizations. In some myths, it represents danger, chaos, and temptation. But in esoteric traditions, the serpent is far more than a mere reptile. It is a living metaphor for the primal life force. Just as the serpent coils before it strikes, this energy lies coiled at the base of the human spine, waiting to awaken. In the yogic traditions of the East, This is called Kundalini, the latent divine power within every human being. Thoth, though separated by culture and geography from the sages of India, pointed to the very same reality. The serpent in his teachings is not external, but an inner force, a hidden fire resting within the temple of the body. The staff on which the serpent ascends represents the human spine. This is no coincidence. The spine is the central pillar of the body, the axis that connects the lower, earthly realms of existence with the higher, celestial ones. Along this pillar, the ancient mystics recognized invisible energy centers, what later came to be described as the chakras. The rising serpent climbing this staff is a direct allegory for the ascent of Kundalini through these centers, from the base of survival instincts up to the crown of divine union. At the top of the staff, in the imagery associated with Thoth, Hermes, and later the Caduceus, we see wings. These wings are not mere decoration. They symbolize the liberation of the soul, the expansion of awareness, and the freedom that comes when consciousness is no longer confined to the limited perception of the physical senses. To have wings is to transcend. It is to rise above the illusions of a matter and taste the vastness of eternity. The serpent does not climb the staff simply to move upward. It climbs to give birth to wings, to transform a grounded being into a celestial one. The beauty of this symbol lies in its layered meaning. On the surface, it is a mystical image, but beneath, it encodes a practical truth about human evolution. When Kundalini awakens and ascends, it does not merely provide visions or fleeting mystical states. It restructures the entire being. It brings harmony to the body, clarity to the mind, and illumination to the spirit. The awakened serpent aligns the individual with what Thoth called the cosmic order, the Ma'at, the universal law of balance and truth. This is why the serpent and staff motif became associated with healing. True healing, in its deepest sense, is not only the restoration of physical health, but the integration of the whole being. The ancients understood that sickness, chaos, and disconnection were often reflections of energy that had not yet risen, of consciousness that remained asleep. The staff with its serpent taught them that real medicine is awakening, that real balance is found when the inner fire climbs and unites heaven and earth within the self. To meditate on this symbol is to meditate on our own journey. Each of us carries the serpent within. Each of us is the staff, the spine waiting for the fire to rise. And each of us holds the potential to unfold wings, to become more than flesh and bone, to awaken to the immortal aspect of our being. Thoth's teachings remind us that this path is not reserved for saints or sages alone. It is the birthright of every soul. So the serpent and the staff are not relics of old temples or forgotten myths. They are living guides. They whisper to us that within the human form lies a divine mystery waiting to awaken. When that serpent stirs and begins its ascent, life itself is transfigured. We become what we always were meant to be, a bridge between earth and sky, matter and spirit, time and eternity. But here is the profound truth Thoth revealed. Kundalini is not awakened by force. It is not a conquest of the ego, nor a prize that one can seize through stubborn will or reckless practice. Kundalini is a sacred fire, a divine current that flows only when the soul is ready. Many seekers throughout history have attempted to force this awakening through dangerous rituals, extreme asceticism, or blind experimentation with energy. But those who try to command the serpent without preparation often end up consumed by the very fire they seek to master. Kundalini is not about physical techniques alone. Yes, certain postures, breaths, and sounds can stimulate its stirring. But if the vessel, meaning your body, mind, and spirit, is not purified, that energy will not illuminate, it will destabilize. The serpent of fire is like lightning. If the channel is unprepared, the current burns and destroys. If the channel is aligned and strengthened, the current transforms and uplifts. This is why all true traditions, from the ancient Egyptian temples to the Indian yogic schools, emphasized the same principle: purity of mind, alignment with universal laws, and spiritual discipline. Without these foundations, Kundalini becomes a dangerous flame. With them, it becomes the ladder that connects earth to heaven. When you raise Kundalini prematurely, without the necessary preparation, the fire can burn instead of illuminate. It can intensify ego instead of dissolving it. It can awaken madness instead of wisdom. That is why Thoth, like other great masters, always warned, only the worthy may hold the flame. Worthiness is not about status, wealth, or knowledge. Worthiness is about the state of your heart, whether it vibrates in harmony with truth, compassion, and balance. So how do you prepare to awaken this inner fire? Thoth taught that the path is simple in essence, though demanding in practice. Through meditation, you still the storm of thoughts that cloud the inner light. Through sacred breathing, you cleanse the channels of subtle energy, allowing the serpent to rise smoothly. Through chanting, you align your vibration with the cosmic harmonies that sustain creation. And above all, through living according to the principle of Maichat, the eternal law of balance, justice, and truth, you establish the foundation for a safe awakening. When you embody Mat in your daily life, when your actions, words, and intentions reflect harmony rather than chaos, truth rather than illusion, you prepare the temple of your being. Then, and only then, does Kundalini rise safely. Then, the serpent uncoils, not as a destructive blaze, but as a radiant flame that opens the gates of higher wisdom. This is the true alchemy Thoth revealed, the transformation of raw fire into divine illumination, of instinct into spiritual power, of the mortal self into the eternal spirit. Awakening the inner fire is not about rushing, forcing, or proving yourself. It is about surrendering, aligning, and purifying. It is about becoming a vessel worthy of holding the flame of the gods. And when the serpent finally ascends, when it reaches the crown of your being, you realize that you were never separate from the divine. You were always the temple, the altar, and the fire itself. When the sacred fire of Kundalini ascends and reaches the crown, something extraordinary occurs. It is said to awaken the eye of Thoth, not a physical eye, but an inner vision that penetrates beyond illusion. In this state, human perception is no longer bound by the ordinary senses. The initiate begins to see through the veil of Maya, perceiving the eternal patterns that sustain the cosmos. This illumination is not just symbolic. Mystics throughout history have described it in vivid terms: a radiant golden light flooding the head, a current of energy spiraling upward through the spine, or an overwhelming sense of expansion as if the self merges with infinity. It is the moment when the finite consciousness dissolves into the infinite and the human becomes a living channel of divine wisdom. For the Egyptians, this was the true rebirth, the second birth not of the body, but of the spirit. To be illuminated by the eye of Thoth was to awaken into eternity, to step beyond the cycle of ignorance and walk in communion with the higher laws of creation. Yet this mystery was never given to the unprepared. The ancient temples guarded it with silence and symbolism, revealing it only to those who had undergone purification and trials. For the fire that illuminates also has the power to consume. Only a disciplined heart, aligned with Ma'at, the principle of balance and truth, could sustain the light without being destroyed by it. This gift of illumination is the highest reward of the path. It is not power for domination, nor knowledge for pride. It is the flame of divine remembrance, the realization that the human being is not separate from the cosmos, but a reflection of the very mind of God. And when one beholds through the eye of Thoth, the journey of initiation is fulfilled, yet at the same time it truly begins. Thoth revealed that each of us carries within the sacred fire of the gods. The serpent, resting in silence, patiently awaits the moment to rise. When awakened with wisdom and reverence, this force becomes the key to immortality, enlightenment, and the highest state of consciousness. This is not a myth. It is the true journey of the alchemist within you. The question is, are you ready to awaken your Kundalini and unlock the eye of Thoth? If this video resonated with you, don't just keep it to yourself. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts or your own experiences with spiritual awakening. Your voice may inspire others walking the same path. Also, remember to like this video because it helps this knowledge reach more seekers. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss the next revelations we will bring. And if you know someone who is searching for answers, share this video with them. You might be the bridge that awakens another soul. The journey has only begun. In our upcoming videos, we will go even deeper into the mysteries of the Emerald Tablets and the forbidden teachings of Thoth. Stay connected, seeker. The path of light continues.